Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Yeah, NBA Straya, how are you going? How you going? I hope you're all right. You bloody well better be. It is Monday, June 17. All day. Oh, geez, Mondays, I'll tell you. It is a good day to be a basketball fan, though, because we have a Game 5 tomorrow. How good is this? I'm stoked. You better be stoked as well. I'm your host, James Clements. You can see my ugly mug on the AFL Today show, also the official AFL Supercoach podcast, as well as Fox Sports Lab NBA. All the good stuff here in Larry Armour Studios, doing a quick Game 5 preview and a quick Game 4 recap from Saturday's show. That was fun, wasn't it? I mean, Dallas, they're still alive. That's all I ever ask. I just want teams to keep playing basketball. So, very simple. So that's what we're going to do today. Game 4 wrap, Game 5 preview. We'll do the NBA Straya game wrap of Game 4, which means that's not an iPhone, mate. No, mate, Spud of the night, better than Lonzo Ball. We've got Dickhead of the weekend. And we do have a magic tweet of the day, which is always fun. We have the Unpopular Opinion of the day, and Outback Takehouse as well, which is good and fun. And we'll do a quick Andrew Gay's Great Mamba Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence. Good times, great memories. It's NBA Straya. Right, we'll finish off the Game 5 preview. So, I guess without any further ado, let's get into it. Episode 1116 of NBA Straya. Let's go!
G'day, this is Andrew Gaze, and you're listening and watching NBA Straya.
Watch out for the Shaq attack.
You better watch out for the attack of, well, we won't have Charles Barkley to push around anymore. Shaq. Chuck announced that he's going to retire from TV after next year, which is kind of fitting because obviously it's the last year the NBA will be on TNT, barring any sort of weird changes with the rights deal, etc. But inside the NBA, look, it won't be the same without Chuck, obviously, and he's one of the most fascinating, interesting, funny voices in the NBA and has been his entire career. So, thing is, 25 years, it's a long time to do anything. So, he's earned it. On you, Chuck. We love you. What a dude. What an absolute legend. That's a goddamn shame. Other little bits of news before we get into the Game 4 wrap. The Extreme Zinger meal. Is he supercharged?
Supercharged Zinger Burger.
No, because he didn't get out there in Game 4. Because it was a blowout, which checks out. But the Extreme Zinger meal...
The Extreme Zinger meal.
Is looking to get out there for Game 5. And we're not entirely sure what's going to happen. They've listed him as questionable. Obviously. So... with his torn medial reticulum, there you go, allowing the dislocation of posterior tibialis tendon. Oh yes, that very common injury. Bung wheel is what we're calling it, blown tire, essentially. So he didn't chat to reporters. Basically, he says he's feeling better. He's walking around okay. So it'll be interesting to see if they get out there in Game 5. I don't know if they would. But at the same time, Boston really want to put the Mavs away because I don't think you want to get into a situation where you're like, well, it's Game 6. We better get the zinger out there. Oh, God. And then you lose Game 6 and then it all comes down to Game 7. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd sort of probably, look, if he can go, I'd get him out there. Joel Embiid obviously popped up on the Saturday broadcast as well for Game 4, saying that he's on track to play for the USA because he's a flog. I mean, for a French Cameroonian bloke playing for the USA, I mean, what are we doing here? Cheating. That's what the US are doing. Cheats. Absolute cheats. So he's on target for the Olympics after his knee injury throughout the season. Pretty cool, I guess, if you're a flog. Right. Let's get into the Game 4 recap. Game wrap. Let's go. What a game it was. Boston 84, Dallas 122. Jeez, Jim, that's a pretty big game. It's a very big margin. In fact, it was the third biggest blowout in NBA Finals history, which is a lot. The craziest part was it all sort of started as soon as Derek Lively hit a three. You're like, oh, watch out. Here they go. It was actually, if you rewind all the way back to the start of game 4, Lively came in within like 2.5 minutes. Like Gafford starts, but Lively's out there within like, it's 9.5 minutes to go. And you're like, hang on, that's an interesting wrinkle there by J Kidd. And the other big wrinkle he made was obviously get Dante Exum on the court, because Kangaroo Kobe, a.k.a. Sex Him Up, a.k.a. the Tarneet Terror, Dante, full name fucking Exum, absolutely smashed it. So Celtics couldn't buy a 3 early. They couldn't buy a 3 all game. They eventually got some to go because Sam Howes is just a weapon. Tatum and White had a couple of arsey ones early on, right? Kyrie, PJ, Washington both got 3s to go early as well. And it was just on from there. Luka had 13-3 and won the first. I think he shot 5-8 from the floor. And then Exum came in. It was like 34-21. Exum comes in and just lights it up. He hits this incredible, awesome layup. Then it's a sick 3, which gets like, there's a 3 that's rescinded. And he hits another one anyway. It's their biggest lead of the entire finals already. 40-25 with 8 minutes left in the second. Basically, the way they built this lead, the Mavs were just relentless on both ends, right? This is the game they came out and went, desperation, we're down 3-0, we don't want to get swept. And so when we looked at this pre-game on Saturday morning, I was walking the squids down to the shops. I did the video. And the thing was, Boston had played so well. You feel like maybe the gentleman's sweep is not on here and Boston will just get it done. Because Dallas, they were so bad and the Boston Celtics had figured them out so well in game 3. Like, it just feels like a very big ask for Dallas to bounce back. All they did was go, hey, Luka, can you stop bitching and moaning at the refs? And he's like, okay, mid-try for one game, huh? And you're like, oh, shit, if he does that and does this all the time, watch out. Because he didn't hit a 3 in this game and still lit it up. It was a pretty crazy one because like halfway through that second quarter, Luka, it was like 43-25. Derek White airballed a 3. And you're like, oh, this is probably just the bad Boston shooting game. And the Mavs shoot it okay. And that's kind of what happened. Like, it was up over 20 points. It's a 25-point lead at some point. I think Boston were 3 or 14 from downtown at some point as well. The lead gets over 25. The biggest comeback is like 24 points, basically, since 2003. So, essentially, you get it to 25 in a game, and you got to, do a bit of record breaking to get back and win a game. So, it was like Jrue Holiday finally hit a 3. Kleber got out there and was doing a little bit more than actually just cardio, hit a shot at the end of the second quarter. I think before that, he had gotten in his usual regulation 12 minutes of cardio, then hit a shot, which is very nice. But it was 61-35 at the half, and it is the exact answer you expect in a playoff series, right? You go, okay, are we going to play for pride, boys? And what we saw from Dallas in game 3, you're like, I don't know if they've got that much pride. Luka tried his absolute hardest to foul out of that game and did. Was then, dragged by Windy about it. And you're like, okay, cool. Do they have a bit of pride? All it took was Jason Kidd getting his head out of his ass and putting Dante Exum on the court before he put Tim Hardaway. It's not rocket surgery. He gave him a blast of energy both ways, and away they fucking went. They put him to the sword. For Boston, they just couldn't get any shot to go. Jaylen Brown and Tatum were both kind of forcing it at times. Derek White was just chucking up a bit of rubbish here and there. And Jrue and above average Al Horford, you could almost see them just go, yeah, this one's toast, boys. We'll just cue in the rack. And so I think that was the second largest for any team at the half since 2003 as well. I think the biggest was the 28 the Lakers had over the Heat in the bubble. Tatum had 15 in the first half. Jrue shot 1 of 6. Derek White shot 1 of 5, right? Basically, they can't buy a shot. Jaylen Brown was like 3 of 10. And Luka had 25, 3 and 4 at halftime. So the biggest difference, though, was that the bench had actually showed up. And the bench was basically Dante Exum and Joke Lively at this point. They had 19 total points, the Dallas Mavericks, off the bench in game 4 at the half. They had 20, 9, and 15 in the first 3 games total. So, yeah, it was a bit of a difference. So, the really biggest thing out of this game, though, so essentially the third quarter kicks off and the Mavs go, yeah, it'd be a real shame if we just kept this going. That's exactly what they did. Because I think I put out the question, what lead makes any Mavericks fan feel safe? And it was not that one, right? Like 26 points is still not enough, I think, for a Mavs fan to just feel like, oh, we've got this one in the bag. And then they sort of just eked it out. Gafford hit free throws right away. They answered with an Al Horford 3. Gafford hit more free throws. And you're like, just keep the scoreboard ticking over and this game is done. Gafford gets a sick oop. It's 38-67. At this point, you're like, yeah, I reckon a 30-point lead feels pretty safe in the third quarter. And PJ Washington then hits the 3. And this is basically all she's written at this point, right? 9 minutes 30 left in the third quarter. It's 70-38. And you're like, yep, I think we're done here. That'll do, pig. That'll do. They sort of went from there because Derek Jones Jr. also hit a 3 just after that. And you're like, if those two guys are going to hit like just those absolute dagger, F you, we're up, we're staying up threes, it's just almost impossible to sort of get by it. So 75-42 after a couple more minutes. And you sort of almost go at that point, you go, there's almost not enough possessions in the game. Like with 6 minutes left, Derek White hits a 3-pointer and you're like, oh, watch out. It's 31 point. No, you're still cooked. So you had like turnovers from Jaylen Brown. You had basically there was a Jrue Holiday and a JB turnover there in those next sort of couple of minutes. And then Kyrie hits another shot. It's 80-47. And that's basically the game. To the point where the Mavs pull their starters. They pull their starters with 3 minutes 18 to the Celtics left in the third quarter. And you're like, all right, it's 80-52. That checks out. Pack her up, boys. And we literally then had essentially 14 to 15 minutes of garbage time where Tim Hardaway Jr. goes out and smokes every single 3 he can see. And you're like, oh, that's nice. The game doesn't matter. It's beyond like everybody at this point. And Tim Hardaway's like, check this out. I'm awesome. And you're like, where the fuck was that? Games 1 through 3, idiot. Anyway, so they run roughshod over them. And essentially the biggest thing was obviously the 3-point makes for Dallas, right? They went 15-37 from 3 in game 4 versus 14-41 from 3 for the Celtics. Now, the Celtics, remember, there is the stat. I think they're 20-10 when they... Oh, sorry, 51-10, I think it might be, when they attempt 43s. So that's now 51-11. The thing was, the Mavs actually made more than them and shot 4 less. So they made the maths work this time. But also on top of that, like 60 points in the paint and out-rebounding Boston by 21, 52-31. That was the biggest story. Lively was incredible. His energy was absolutely infectious. And you had Lively and Exum sort of paired up. You're like, this is awesome. This is exactly how it should be rolling, because then when you've got energy at both ends, like the 1 and the 5, and Exum can play off both Luka and Kyrie, or even if they're both out there, it just like lessens the ball handling load on them 1 or 2 possessions just here and there. And you're like, that makes a big bloody difference. How does J-Kid have not seen this in the first 3 games, you idiot? Anyway, Exum was fantastic. Gave him the scoring punch. Lively was just absolutely everywhere getting the rebounds, and that just changes the tone of the game, right? The Celtics, 14-40, they shot 36% from the floor, 13 turnovers. They were sloppy. I think between them was like Holiday, Brown, and Tatum, 10 turnovers between them. It was all just brutal. Brown had 10 points on 3, 12 shooting. Tatum, 15 on 4 of 10. Jrue went 4 of 10 for 10 points. Derek White went 2 of 8, all of which were from 3. Horford, it's not the game that average Al Horford gets you back in it. He's the one who kicks you while you're down in game 5. Just talk about that later. Hauser did have 14 off the bench. He was really good. He went 4 of 6 from downtown. No starter played more than 31 minutes, and that was Derek White. Everyone else was basically that 27-minute mark. Tillman gave them some nice minutes early, but what they've done, right? So the Dallas Mavericks have this drop big man in defensive coverage, and we saw the Celtics had sort of tried to slice and dice that in game 3, and it had worked at times. It's also how they sort of got back into it. The one-man zone essentially back there in the big comeback in game 3 that eventually fell short because Luka cracked it like a baby. And from there, though, what they've done is just limit the Celtics sort of opportunities in the paint. Those O-boards, the kick it out, the tap it out, without the zinger in there. This is the sort of stuff you need to see from the Mavs big men, and they delivered. It was really good. 29, 5 and 5 for Luka, 12 of 26. Amazingly went 0 of 8 from downtown. Kyrie had 21 and 6 and went 1 of 6 from 3. So if you win a game by 38 points with Luka and Kyrie going 1 of 14 combined from 3, you've done something right. Ridiculously, it wasn't because PJ Hamilton-Washington went off. He only had the 6 points. He hit 2 threes. Derek Jones Jr. 1 or 2 from downtown as well. That sort of dagger one in the middle of the third quarter I just mentioned. Lively, though. 11 points, 12 rebounds. Absolutely imperative to the Mavs' success in this game. Gafford, 7 in 4 in 10 minutes. It's actually not bad. As I said, he hit those free throws at the start of the third quarter. Hit them all. Like, you can't hack a Gafford. He's like, this is all good. Check these out. Bang. The big one for me, and obviously for all the other Aussies watching, listening, whatever, Dante Exum, the Tarn-Eat Terror, Kangaroo Kobe, comes on, plays 14 minutes, has 10 points, 4 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 4 from downtown, 2 rebounds, 1 steal, a plus 15, changes the complexion of this game right away, where we saw in game 3, obviously the Mavs got up big early, and they took the foot off the gas. Boston basically tied it up after the first quarter. They didn't let them do this because Exum's like, let's just run it down their fucking throat. Let's just go. Just keep going. Just keep pushing the fucking boat. Bang, 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 bang. And that's exactly what happened between he and Lively and Greeny getting out there, jumping passing lanes. Greeny had 3 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist and 1 steal. Went 1 of 3 on his free throws. But also, he, got fouled on a three-pointer. 1 or 2 from the floor overall for him. Plus 16. Not bad, Greeny. Not bad. Actually, Kleber had the 5-1-1-1-1-1. Love that. Hardaway goes 5 of 7 from downtown, all in the fourth quarter. 15 points in the fourth quarter. I think it's the most threes made in a finals game by a Mav as well, and he did it when it did not matter, which, as I've said before, is the most classic Tim Hardaway the Lesser shit you could ever imagine. But either way, a really, really good team game by the Mavs where they sliced and diced and just, I keep talking about this time and time again, the Mavs, when they keep the score ticking over, look unbelievable. And that's what they did in this game. They just kept it going. And that's because they had the pace, the fun, the sheer willingness to attack that you saw from Exum and co. And you love to see it. So there you go. 3-1. The Boston Celtics. Remember, teams that have been up 3-0, unbeaten all time in NBA playoff series, 151-0, 12-0 in finals. But they were only 7-5 in game 4s. So make that now 7-6. Because the Dallas Mavericks won in a blowout. It was amazing watching that on Saturday. Just like the sheer amount of garbage time was hilarious. All right, let's do an NBA Straya approved performance of the night.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
I wanted to give it to Exum, but that'd just be pushing it a little bit. Look, this was Luka just going, all right, why was it the approved performance of the night, Jim? Well, even without hitting threes, he basically turned into Tim Duncan. He's like, here's a bunch of points in the paint in your face. Here's a little turnaround when we've just sort of gotten gummed up. I'm going to hit these shots. But most importantly, he just fucking cut out the whinging. That's all we want from you, Luka. Stop your sooking. Jesus. Like, I was at Auskick with this squid on Friday night. There's kids getting cleaned up. It's like you can't tackle when it comes to Aussie rules footy and Auskick. It's like he's 5. And there's just dog piles. He gets stuck under one of them at one point. He's like, Dad, I hurt my wrist. I'm like, you're all right, buddy. He's like, okay. Runs back out there. I'm like, that's what Luka Doncic should be like. All right, I'll just rub some dirt on and get back out there. Like, the squid wasn't like yelling at the umpire, got me the back. Come on, man. Give me a free kick. Like, none of that. Luka could learn a lot from a 5-year-old. Just saying. Anyway, but Luka was incredible in this game. Just like the way... this is like actual leadership, and it's the exact opposite of what we saw in game 3, right? Where he cracked the sads, had a big old sook session, deliberately basically fouled out. And then the Celtics were like, oh, that was a cute little comeback you had going there. Fuck you. Now you don't have Luka. Sucked in, dickheads. We're going to win this game. The way he controlled this game early on was awesome. To get that big lead and then to let the likes of Exum and co come on and just sort of like keep pushing that lead up and get it above the 15-point mark, get it up to 18, what was it, 39-21, get it up over the 43-25, 45-25. Like, that's the sort of inexorable scoring that you need, and Luka was basically orchestrating most of it just by virtue of like paying attention, not sooking, getting in the passing lanes. I think he had like 3 steals as well in this game. Just caused all sorts of havoc. And you're like, yeah, this is what an engaged Luka Doncic should be like. Yeah, he had the 29, 5, 5, and 3 steals with only 1 turnover in 33 minutes. Shot 12 of 26, 0 of 8 from 3, 5 of 7 to the line. That was an awesome game. Loved every second of it. Great job, Luka. That was an NBA Straya approved performance of the night. And it's exactly what the Mavs needed. And if you can get that in game 5, who knows what could happen, eh? Yeah, Boston's still going to win. All right, spot of the night. Spud, 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 it is Spud of the night. Jaylen Brown. He couldn't even do us the actual favour of shooting the magic number, which is a goddamn shame. He went 3 of 12 instead. At a really rough start where you're like, ooh, hang on, what's going on here? 3 of 12, ends up 1 of 5. So he had, in the first half he was 3 of 10, so he just missed his other shots in the third quarter and then they sat them. But 10 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 fouls, a minus 28. The 3 of 12 was particularly egregious. The 1 of 5 from 3 was pretty tough. And Tatum, obviously, the 15, 5, and 3 with a couple of blocks, 3 turnovers, 4 of 10 shooting. It did feel like they were both sort of gunning for finals MVP in that game, and it really took the set. Like, I didn't mention this in the game, right? But it sort of took them out of their. Like, there was moments where you're like, that's just turned into an ISO possession, where in the previous 3 games, the ball had probably moved a little bit more, or they'd driven and done something else apart from the old dribble, shoot. Was it them pushing too hard to maybe eke up a bit of a finals MVP? Maybe. JB, you don't want to like ascribe motivations to folks, but at the same time, it did feel a bit wonky. The trickiest part is Jason Tatum was a minus 33 in 27 minutes. It was a bit of a tough one for Jason Tatum, and this comes down to my question of like, what the hell is Juice doing? Jim, are you blaming this on his very small son? Yes. It's a work trip. You don't need to bring your family. What are we doing here? I found it just strange as hell. Oh, but Jim, he could celebrate with his family after winning the NBA title. You can do that back in Boston as well. I don't know. The weirdest part is, I don't know, does Deuce Tatum have a mum? Like, I don't think we've ever seen her, have we? It's always like Jason Tatum and Deuce hanging out, and you're like, yeah, cool. Where's his old mate? What's going on? Bizarre. Anyway, Jaylen Brown, spot of the night. Wrap it up, Jim. Wrap it up. Old mate, no mates.
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 Old mate, no mates. Who's got no mates today? Geez, it might be your mate Jason Kidd. But Jim, he coached a finals win. It's okay. Yeah, and Kyrie got his first win in, what was it, 13, 14 tries. So he's now 13-1 against the Celtics since he stomped on Lucky and all that jazz. But Jason Kidd, I don't like to say, I bloody told you so, but also, hey, Jason Kidd, I bloody told you so, Dante Exum. Like, as I said, I think I tweeted this before the game on Saturday morning. If Tim Hardaway steps on the floor before Dante Exum, Cuban should run out there and just take Jason Kidd, chokehold, and drag him off down the tunnel and fire him at halftime. Right? And guess what happens? Dante comes on, absolutely bloody shreds it, and they fucking kill the Celtics. I don't know, but we better take another victory lap. Told you so. Jason Kidd, come on. Better, hey, he's learning. And that's all we can ask sometimes, isn't it? He does learn very slowly. Seriously, like, you know, learning disabilities and everything are very, very rampant, and it stinks. Jason Kidd has at least learned little bits over time. So I've watched him coach in Brooklyn. He was obviously the coach there in Milwaukee, but I was up close and personal in Brooklyn watching that team. And it's been like these little bits throughout his career. It's his third head coaching stint. He was like an assistant with the Lakers when they win that title. And you could sort of see him learn little bits. All you kind of want, though, is for Jason Kidd to not have to fuck up the first time to then learn from his mistakes. You're like, you've done this enough now, I think, at this point, Jason Kidd, to sort of like go, hey, maybe in game 3 of an NBA Finals, I just don't throw a bunch of shit against the wall to see what sticks. Maybe I'll just listen to Jim and get Dante out there. Love that. Old mate, no mates as well. Paul George sitting next to Joel Embiid, sitting next to Kendrick Perkins. That was a horror show. Kendrick Perkins, like, A, is a horrible interviewer. B, Joel Embiid, he's just a weird speaker. And Paul George, if you're sitting there and you're Joel Embiid, it's like, geez, the answer might be sitting next to me. This would be pretty fun, says Kendrick Perkins. He might be next to you, Joel Embiid. Embiid side-eyes Paul George. And old mate, no mates. This is a preemptive old mate, no mates. If Paul George ends up in Philly, how do you reckon those fans are going to treat him? You want some old mate, no mates? Jesus, the first time he no-shows a playoff game, they're going to be like, Ben Simmons 2.0. All right, pantsing of the night. That would be the 38-point win, the third most in NBA Finals history that the Mavs just laid up on the Celtics. Hey, it's also your mate Jim, who started off his video rap on Saturday with the Boston Celtics just staved off elimination. I mean, technically I was correct, the best kind of correct, because they staved off elimination because they're up 3-1. But it was obviously the Mavs who staved off elimination. And never forget that I'm a moron. Who is better than Lonzo Ball?
Lonzo was the best player in high school. He was the best player in college. You think he'll get to the pros and be like, I made it to the pros, now I can be average. He's coming for everybody.
Coming for everybody. That's goddamn right. Derek Lively, the youngest player with a made three in NBA's finals history. He made his first career three-pointer in the NBA finals. Never been done. Youngest player with a finals three-pointer. Youngest player with a finals double-double. And he's now got back-to-back double-doubles. He's the first rookie since Magic Bloody Johnson had back-to-back doubles in the NBA finals. Oh, not bad. I'll tell you what, probably a little bit better than Lonzo Ball. Should we do a bit of a dickhead of the weekend? Dickhead of the week. What is going on with that halftime show? ESPN, it's like, here's Joel Embiid and Kendrick Perkins and Paul George and you're like, there are too many people and there is 90 seconds. This is fucking stupid. So whoever's in charge of that, very clearly dickhead of the week. But also, why? Do we need to hear from Joel Embiid in Game 4 of the NBA Finals? The bloke's never made it out of the second bloody round. Paul George as well. It's like, what are we doing here? What is happening? Ugh, gross. Piss off. Get some relevant people on there. Just put your mate Jim on there. I'll make it a little bit more lively. And then finally, let's do it. It's the return of everyone's favorite segment, Magic Tweet of the Day. I had a wonderful lunch today with two of my kids, EJ and Eliza. I always thank God and am grateful that my kids still want to hang out and vacation with Cookie and I. Thanks, Magic. To go back to the Game 4 wrap. Well, the Game 3 wrap, actually. Kyrie had his best game of the series tonight with a 35-point performance, and the Mavs still didn't have enough to win. Oh, I love that one. But this was the best one because I was actually reading this one when it happened. Let's do it. Dallas raised their intensity and played a lot more physical on the defensive end tonight, which carried into better offensive rhythm. Luka and Kyrie played like stars with 29 and 21 points respectively, and they finally got some help from the bench tonight between Exum, Hardaway Jr. and Lively. I can't wait to see what happens back in Boston Monday night. That's your Game 4 wrap. Thanks, Magic. All right, let's take a quick break. Be back with some yeah-nahs right after this.
This is Cam Glidden.
This is Anthony Drimmick.
This is Mitch McCarron.
This is Jason Kadee.
This is Darryl McDonald.
Hey guys, this is Hugh Greenwood.
Yo, what's going on? This is Illy.
This is Mark Worthington, or commonly known as Wortho, and you're listening to NBA Straya.
You're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA
and you're
Straya.
listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
And you're listening to NBA Straya.
You're listening to NBA Straya.
All right, let's do it. Some yeah-nahs brought to you by the NBA Straya shop. Get your merch.
People,
get your merch, get your merch.
Wear it.
Get your merch, get your merch. Get your merch, get your merch.
Yeah, do it nbastraya.com/shop or just click through on the socials and away you go. Get a hoodie, get a t-shirt, get a stubby holder, get a coffee mug. Go nuts, mate. Be really fun. Go on. It'd be really handy to help, clear out that thing in the squids room. Anyway, let's do it. Can the Mavs win the series still? We've asked this every single game. Can they still win the series? Yeah, nah. I mean, yeah, technically they can because it's still alive. Will they? Probably still not. I mean, it's 3-1. I think the most likely result is they get absolutely killed in Game 5. We'll get to that in a second in the game previews, but geez. They still can win it because they're not dead yet. But you can sort of at least see the framework of how it could happen. I mean, if there was ever a team that would blow a massive lead like this, it is the Brown and Tatum Celtics. We know that. But they're so talented and they're so deep, that Celtics team, that I just can't see them losing 4 straight to Dallas. So, yeah, nah. Number 2, is Jalen the best lock for Finals MVP after Game 4 still? Yeah, nah. I think if he has a really good Game 5, I think he still wins it. If Tatum has an awesome Game 5 and like basically almost wins it single-handedly, I think he wins it. Drew Holiday, if he had a better Game 4 and not stunk it up, he would have been a really fun long shot. But yeah, I think it's still Tatum, between Tatum and Brown. And it's probably still Brown's to lose. If he throws up another stinker, though, like that might be all she wrote. Jez Oz. Hey, buddy, cracking game today. If you want the Celtics to lose like me, here's some yeah-nahs for you. While the narrative will be around Luka actually playing defense for once, it was Dante, Aussie MJ, who was the backbone of this win. Yeah, nah, yeah. And I sort of broke it down in that game wrap. Like, the way that he sort of came in and changed the complexion of the game, gave him that burst of energy, that burst of absolute fuck you-ness of like, boys, we're not going to fucking lay down. And he just came out and went, right the eyes, let's fucking go. Bang. Absolutely awesome when he's playing with confidence. And that was probably the most disappointing aspect of a lot of this playoff run where Exum hasn't been out there and getting regular minutes. He's very clearly a fucking confidence player. And if he's playing the exact sort of same rotation stuff all the time, he excels in his role. We've literally fucking seen that all season, Jason Kidd. And for you to break his rhythm like that is just another example of dunder-headed dipshittery. Breaking my heart. That's a good point by Jez. Dante might have been the MVP of that game. With his versatility and composure on offense and stingy, hard-nosed defense, Exum should be the go-to off the bench as 6-man, not just for the finals, but moving forward. Yeah, nah. Yeah. Because I think I tweeted this one out and it was like one of those ones where you go, oh yeah, cool. It's good to see everyone agrees with me. The simple fact is, like, Exum can play next to Luka. He can play next to Kyrie. And he can play next to both of them because he can space off the floor. He can guard 3 positions. He's speedy. He moves the ball. He plays D. Like, yeah, he's the ideal sort of 6-man to go with those guys where you're either spelling one of them or they're both still out there and you're wanting to kick this shit out of a team like in the, the end of a first quarter, the start of a second quarter, right? That's exactly what they did. His stingy-ass defense is unreal sometimes. Like, he does get beaten, and we've seen that time and time again with the Boomers where, like, he tries really, really hard. And a lot of the time, that just feeds into the rest of the team. Like, if you're just fucking trying your ass off on defense, even if, like, someone still scores over the top of you, that most of the time doesn't tend to matter too much. As long as you're actually going out there and trying fucking hard each and every possession, that can change a game. And finally from Jez Oz, if he and Greeny don't play at least that many minutes going forward, Kidd is an idiot. Yeah, nah, yes. And we riot and we declare war on Jason Kidd, the nation state of Jason Kidd. Scotty Baxter! Scoob! Love Scotty B. Where was this the first 3 games? Lol, Mavs in 7. Yeah, nah. Like, just hypothetically, if the Mavs play like that in game 5 and win in Boston, everything gets very fucky very quickly for Boston, doesn't it? I still don't think it's going to happen, but I still think it would be very, very fun. And I love that Scotty B was like, where the fuck was that in the first 3 games? He's right. Where the fuck was it? I don't know. It might have been Jason Kidd just saying it like at halftime. All right, boys, just go out there and have fun. Amazing. All right, Dill K had a couple of yeah-nahs that we hit on at the very end of Friday's show. Does everyone think that Tim Hardaway Jr., PJ Washington, previous Spud of the Year, and Dwight Powell are going to win a ring? Just a thought. Yeah, nah. Look, it is one of those ones where when you've got 2 dudes who have competed year on year for Spud of the Year on NBA Straya, it is quite a big ask to go, ooh, they could be NBA champions. But we did see PJ Hamilton Washington. Like, there are these little stretches where you can go and basically turn into a combination of Ray Allen and Scottie Pippen, right? And you're like, ooh, this is fun. He then also turns into, like, I don't know, a shorter version of Stromile Swift. And you're like, what the fuck happened here? It is weird. So it's a really good point. I also, look, he hit on another one on Friday's show. Also, I'm a Celtics, Carlton, and Cronulla Sharks fan. Am I in for a life of misery? Nah, you're all right. I think the Celtics are going to win this, no problems. The Blues, hashtag flaggers, maybe not. We'll see how we go. Yeah, nah, bring Mark Jones in the commentary box to the NBA Finals. He's funny AF, and listening to Doris and JJ ain't it. Come on, man, this is Finals. This is one that I swung over very quickly on Friday. It's a really good point. I think there's been one thing throughout the call of these NBA Finals. Between Doris Burke and JJ Redick, they're almost too nice. And as good as JJ is, like, breaking down some of the interesting aspects of what's happening on the court, it's almost he's not quite settled into that role of analyst, I think, at this point, to bring the gravitas as well. Everything JJ Redick says, it almost sounds like he's got a fucking shit-eating smirk on his face as well. Just listen to him next time, and you'll just be like, oh, yeah. Fuck. And I think that sort of decries a lack of gravitas in, like, what you're trying to get across. And he and Doris are almost too nice to each other, where it's like, don't you think, JJ? You're right there, Doris. And like, as much as I hated Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson's fucking dipshit buddy cop fucking back and forth, there was at least some, like, smattering bits of gold that Jeff would throw in there to balance out Mark Jackson's fuckheadedry of hand down, man down. Like, no one still knows what the fuck you're talking about. And Mike Breen is sort of like, he's a really, really, really good commentator. And he is like the voice of the finals at this point, obviously. But he can't do it all. And you sort of need JJ and Doris to sort of get up to this point with him of like trying to make these really good points. And I think so far it's been a bit of a struggle. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. This commentary, let us know. Like, I want to hear what everyone else sort of thinks. But the minute I sort of thought about it and I sort of started reflecting on it a little bit, I'm like, the gravitas just isn't quite there for an NBA fucking finals. Let alone the fact that they don't have like the Larry O'Brien on the fucking courts and shit like that. You're like, what is this? Is just fucking a game in March, you dipshits? How hard is it to figure this shit out, NBA? Come on. Jimmy, we don't want to paint stuff on the courts. Why not, Adam? I don't know. Should ask me first. And Ian Matthew Bassett. I love him. My favourite painter out in Perth. Got to keep the rabbits out in China. Mate, as someone with a South American wife, I think I can confidently say that your accent is crook and probably racist. Yeah, nah, you're all right. Thanks, man. My question at IMB was like, I don't know which one is... Yeah, but he's probably right. Jason Kidd is out of a job next year. So I think IMB and I was sending this one back and forth Friday morning. So before Game 4 on Saturday morning, obviously. And it was one of those ones where you looked at it. It was such a bad coaching job in Game 3. But then Game 4 worked so well that, yeah, if they had have been swept and they had lost that Game 4 at home, you could have actually conceivably have gone, oh boy, are we sure Jay Kidd's the right guy? Like, he would have survived. But I think it would have been the questions that Nico Harrison and the new ownership there for the Mavs would have actually had to kick the tires on, going, are we sure this is the guy that can get us over the hump? He's playing 11 dudes in Game 3. What the fuck is going on? It's a good question. Unpopular opinion of the day.
Now look at me, please. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
So I went off on Luka. Windhorse went off on Luka. It was warranted to go after Luka after Game 3. The Windhorse thing, though, was also a bit cooked, wasn't it? He's like, the winners go through that tunnel and the losers, like you, go through the loser tunnel. And you're like, all right. You got to, like, focus in on what makes a winner. I get it. At the same fucking time, I think that's giving him a little less credit than he probably deserves for having fucking gotten them to the NBA Finals. Like, they've just gone through the Clippers, OKC, and the fucking T-Wolves as a 5 seed. They've beaten 3 teams above them in the West to make it to the NBA Finals. Yeah, he cracked the fucking sads, had a massive sook, basically melted down on the court with those back-to-back fouls like a fucking baby, and like cracked the sads and fouls out with 4 minutes to go in a 3-point game in the NBA Finals. That is dipshittery in the highest. It was dumb as hell. As I said, a bit of baby back bitch vibes. To be like, oh, you'll forever be a loser until you change this. It's like, I don't know. They came out and won Game 4 and he changed his attitude. Was it because he was put on blast? Maybe. But at the same time, it's like there's no way the Mavs are anywhere fucking near the NBA Finals without him playing his ass off throughout the other fucking series, right? So it was a bit weird. Anyway, bit of Outback Takehouse for ya. It's Monday at Outback. You know what that means? Well, I took the squids to daycare and school this morning and boom, a couple of golf clubs out the side of the bloody pram and on the scooter and skadoosh magpie wings. That's right, fresh off the streets, the mean streets of Brunswick. That's right, Brunswick flavoured magpie wings, only at Outback. And today's flame grilled take is, we're just going to rehash last week's Boston throw game 4 so they can celebrate at home, only at Outback. I was on this from the get-go. Seriously, the Boston Celtics have been through the absolute fucking ringer over the last, what is it? They've been to 6 Eastern Conference Finals in the last 8 years. They've made the finals twice now. They know that they can beat the piss out of the Mavericks, and they're like, let's just beat the piss out of them in Game 5 at home, and we can celebrate with our fans. They deserve it. Bob Cousy came out and said, I'm 95. I want to see one more fucking Celtics title before I die. And they're like, okay, we'll bring it home to you, Bob. And off they go. Only at Outback. Don't mind that. All right, quick break. Be back with Australian Player Watch right after. Let's say this one.
This is Shane Hill, and you're listening to NBA Straya.
All right, before we get into the Game 5 preview, just highlight the Game 4 of Exum, who played 14 minutes at 10 points. That is obviously his NBA Finals career high. 4 of 7 shooting from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, one of which was rescinded in some anti-Strayan bias bullshit. 2 rebounds, 1 steal, a plus 15. Absolutely unreal game from Exum, a game changer of the highest regard. And Greenie came back in, did a little bit of everything, gave them a bit of speed on the wings as well. 18 minutes, 3 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist and 1 steal, 1 and 2 from the floor, 1 and 3 from the free throw line, plus 16. You'd love to see the Aussies come in and change the bloody game. It's pretty good. All right, quick Andrew Gaze Great Mamba Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence.
Andrew Gaze Great Mamba.
Outstanding achievement in the Field of Excellence.
All right, clap it up. Well, Dante Exum's 10 points with the highest, and Australian, not named Kyrie Irving because he's not Australian, has scored in the NBA Finals since Dallas Game 3 in 2016. Pretty bloody excellent. That was some awesome shit from Dante bloody Exum. You legend. At least I'm pretty sure. There was like I got sent that one. And I just didn't ever check the bogey in 2019. Let's have a look. The forgotten year of the bogeyman. When he actually made the finals because they just tapped him on the shoulder. Yeah, he only had 6. That's what I thought. All right, there you go. Good stuff. You could also throw the shooting heel shooter shoot your shot line 'em up award for the Tim Hardaway Jr., the lesser, going out there and knocking in fucking a million threes. The most threes, was it, by a Mav in finals history, which is pretty funny because none of them mattered. It's like if Tim Hardaway hits a 3 in the woods, does anyone fucking notice? Well, not if it doesn't matter and it's in the 4th quarter of a blowout. I'll tell you. There was a good one. I think on top of that as well, the fact that the Mavs, with that big blowout, they've actually scored more points than the Celtics in these finals. 408 to 402 is pretty funny. But where's the Hardaway? Where was it? It was the first Mav in finals history to hit 5 threes in a game. Not bloody bad. All right, let's do it at Patty Mills Gameday, Bala Gameday Twitter check-in before we get into the Game 5 preview. Because I tell you what, Patty has been up to a lot over the weekend. Most of which I can actually look at without getting in trouble, I think. He says. Here we go. Oh, rest the weapon for Paris. What's he doing? Oh, he's gone bowling. His hair's up. That looks awesome. Patty looking sharp. Oh, he's there with Rocco. Rocco bowling is pretty funny. He's a weird looking unit, is Rocco Zakarsky. He really is. That's good. A couple of other folks there. That's bloody awesome. Paddy just having a bit of a bowl. Isn't that nice? All right. Let's do it. Time for the mega Game 5 preview. Game preview. Thanks, Inadvertent Bane. Not a problem, Jim. How's the weekend? Bloody good. Went to the Community Cup yesterday. Went to the footy on Saturday, see Dustin Martin surrounded with game, and hung out with a couple of special guests who will be on the show. That's called a teaser. Send in your guesses. Who do you reckon it could have been? It's going to blow your mind too. Game 5. So, home favourites coming off a double-digit loss. 149-112 against the Line since 2005. In the playoffs, that is. So, if you lose in double-digit figures, 149-112 in the next game against the Line. So, in NBA history, there's only been 3 times that a team that's down 3-0 forced a game 6, which is pretty crazy, right? The last was actually my beloved Seattle Supersonics back in 1996. They did that against the Bulls. They actually forced a game 6 as well. So they went out 1 game 4, 1 game 5 after George Karl sicked Gary Payton onto MJ. And away they went. They won game 4 by 21 points to the Sonics and then pushed it to 6 where they lose 4-2. Before that, it was 1951 with the Royals Knicks, and before that, the Lakers versus the Capitals, which is pretty crazy. So, basically, no other team in NBA history, obviously, has copped an ass-kicking as badly as the 3-0, like, that's been up 3-0, that Boston just copped. So, the 38-point margin is like the biggest blowout, third biggest blowout in NBA history behind the 96-54 win that the Bulls put on the Jazz, and the Celtics won 31-92 in 2008, which was a classic. But the Celtics have actually done this in the when they've lost double digits a couple of times. They're up 2-0. Actually, no, they're 2-0 rather. Sorry, because they lost to the Mavs in game 2 in the first round. And then they lost that one by 10. Double-digit loss. And then beat them by 20. And in round 2, the Cavs absolutely smashed them by 24. The Celtics turned around and whipped them with a 13-point win as well. So the Celtics have been in this point before. But most of all, you look at the game 5 in this series, and you're like, you don't want to say it comes down to who makes the most threes. But it basically comes down to who makes the most threes, because in game 1, it was 16-7 in favor of the Celtics. It was 10-6 in game 2. It was 17-9 in game 3. The Celtics won all 3 of those by hitting more threes. In game 4, the Mavs went 15-37, and the Celtics went 14-41. And guess what? The Mavs won game 4. Pretty weirdly, so this is still a Boston team that has an offensive rating of 116.7 versus a Dallas team that's 113.9 throughout the playoffs. Boston's defensive rating is 108.7, which is awesome, versus 110.3 for Dallas. So it comes down to Boston at home. Can they do it? Do you trust them at home? Tatum hasn't been quite as good at home as he has been on the road, right? So there's a bunch of stats, you know, those things. Basically looking at the way that Tatum scores at home versus on the road. And it feels like he's a little bit more relaxed. If you look at this playoff run, where he's played at home, he's had 23, 28, 16, 18, 25, 25, 36 in a big overtime win against Indiana. 23, 16, and then 18 at home. So he had the 16 and 18 against Dallas in the first 2 games at home in this final series. Whereas on the road, he's had 22, 20, 33, 33, 36, 26, 31, and then 15 back in there in game 3. So, game 4. So, Tatum's home road splits are, in the playoffs, pretty significant. So, who do we trust? Like, are we going to see Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum go back and forth, same as they kind of did in game 4 about who's going to win the finals MVP, the guy who scores the most in this game? Who do you trust? Because I kind of think I trust Jaylen Brown to bounce back with a better game at home, win finals MVP. I could see him hitting 4 threes, getting to like 26 plus points, having a few rebounds, a few assists, and sort of just doing a little bit of everything. Tatum might come out like the absolute clappers like he did early in game 4. He has had those games where he's like, oh, I better put the pedal to the metal. He was the only one who's doing fucking anything in that game 4, and then did nothing in the third quarter, and the game was over. The interesting one, though, so I think whoever you like for Finals MVP, I'd be like getting around their scoring looks as well. I'm probably leaning more towards Jaylen Brown because he's been better at home these playoffs than Tatum has been. The other one that I love is obviously the Derek White 14, 5, and 5 with a block. That's always a look at for me. Sam Hauser is the gift that keeps on giving after a really rough start to this series. I've backed him in pretty hardcore for 2+3s and 3+3s in the last 2 games, and that's been pretty handy. Interested to see how he goes at home now, but I think now that the Levy has been broken, he might be all right. Al Horford has made 23s at home this playoffs as well in 10 games. So for 2+ for average Al Horford, above average Al Horford, doesn't it feel like this is the game where Al Horford not only finally wins his first NBA title, becoming, the man who's got the 3rd most games played ever without winning a title. He finally gets one, and he's like a little bit of a hero, hits some big back-breaking threes. I don't mind him for 2+ or 3+ as well. The Celtics, they're 46-5 at home, which is pretty crazy. They're 27-22 against the line. There's 2 pushes there as well, 27-22. Can you trust the Celtics to cover this line is the big question in my brain. The Mavs are 34-17-1 on the road at covering the spread. So a lot of this will simply come down to if you think the Mavs can win, you're taking the Mavs at the line, which is +6.5 at the moment. The Celtics, home favorites having lost the double-digit stat. What was that? 149 to 112. That's over 57%. I think there's 5 pushes in there as well. With an average margin of 2.47 points, I think if you like the Celtics, I'd be going the Celtics pretty big, like -13.5 as well as the -6.5. But I think I'm going to lean with the Celtics -6.5. I have loved the Mavs on the road all playoffs, but this does scream to me, gentleman's sweep, desperation, backs against the wall. We quite literally just saw it happen in Dallas versus Minnesota, didn't we? So if you think about that series where Dallas were like, oh man, we're absolutely smashing the Wolves, and then they get their asses kicked in, game 4 at home. So there's the 105-100 game. And then they turn around and kick the crap out of the Wolves. It sort of feels like a bit of that where Cat found his rhythm. The Mavs sort of went, oh, hang on a second. And the Wolves like, we're back. We might be able to get back into this series. Oh, no, it's all over because the Mavs came out and smashed them in game 5. I think we might see that with the Celtics. So I think my pick here is now the Celtics -6.5. Don't get me wrong. I want the Mavs to win. And we'll see how we go by tomorrow morning with my, drop-off playoff pick with the Squids in the morning. But now, at the moment, I think it's hard to ignore the fact that the Celtics are that good at home. With the promise of celebrating with the home fans, I think there'll be some squirrely moments early where it's like, oh, watch out. But then the Celtics assert themselves in the second half and run over the top of the Mavs. I don't mind extending that line out to something like a -13.5. But for the moment, the pick is -6.5. Jaylen Brown for MVP. Derek White for 3+3s, 14, 5, and 5 with a block, or maybe 15, 4, and 4 with a block. Sam Hauser, 2+3s. Al Horford, 2+3s. You could even bump that up to 3. Because when Horford's actually gotten going, he's had a couple of games where he's hit 6, or at least 4 and 6 and stuff throughout the playoffs. So, all right, I think Celtics get this done 4-1. My initial pick during the week prior to the finals was Celtics in 6. But that was basically predicated on the Mavs stealing one in Boston in the first 2 games. They couldn't quite get over the hump. So I think we might see the Celtics sort of run over the top of them late. The Mavs might have emptied the clip there. The tricky part is the top-end offensive talent, and we hit on this every single bloody game. It's so hard to pick a Mavs game because you're like, are Kyrie and Luka going to hit threes in this one? Because if they do, it's a completely different game. I think you see the Celtics defense sort of just kick up a notch. I think you see a bit better passing to break down that one-man zone that the big man is playing underneath the paint. Luka and Kyrie could get going, but I think they limited everybody else. Another question to sort of ponder is whether or not they bring back the extreme zinger meal or not. Because if they do, I think they might throw the Boston Celtics rhythm a little bit too, but we saw it in game 1. He came out, he started to knock him in, but now he's got a blown tire. If they play him, I think that works against them. And I think the Mavs could have a shot. So if we find out prior to the game that Zinger's actually going to try, and they're going to try to roll the Zinger out there, I I think my initial vibes then would probably swing back to the Mavs plus 6.5, where they could at least keep themselves a little bit closer. But if they just go, fuck it, we're not playing the zinger, we're going Celtics minus 6.5. Sound good? Good. So there you go, Celtics fans. It's in the bag. I guess. All right. But that will do us for today. I'm going to go run off and do an AFL Supercoach show. So that's it. We'll be back on deck tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be doing a live stream in the morning pre-game. We'll do a halftime live stream as well, so keep an eye out on the socials. Facey, IG, Twitter, YouTube. You can subscribe, star, and like this on YouTube as well as the AFL Today show as well. You know, that's a fun one. Get around that on all the socials. But of course, the Cricket Today podcast, the Football Today podcast, Hold All Tickets, all the shows that we do. Very, very fun. Very, very good. Get around them all, or I'll fight you. We'll also have the drop-off playoff picks tomorrow morning for Game 5, which will be fun as. Usually, it doesn't change from what I've just said, but we'll probably find out a little bit closer that whether or not the zing is good to go or not. Check us a rating review on your podcast app, of course. Like, subscribe, star on your Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, whatever weird apps you use on your Android phones. Get around NBAstraya.com/shop and get your merch. And big thanks go to From Oslo for the intro and outro song, but check out House Hats, Joshua De Laurentiis, Fascinated, Gold Mines, Ramshackle Army, Iowa, Sex Jedi, Green, and Dozers. They're behind all the tunes you hear throughout the show. Smash them all at Bandcamp, Triple J and Earth, Facey, Apple Music, Spotify. However you listen to your bands, follow your bands, do it. NBA Straya supports Strayan bands, so should you. Say bands one more time, Jim. Bands. All right, we'll catch you tomorrow, you dickheads, for what might be the final game of the NBA season. Uh-oh. Check out. Sound like the baby squid. He does a really good uh-oh. It's like, buddy, you just threw your plate on the floor. It's not an uh-oh. He's like, uh-oh. You're like, oh, you're too cute. Bloody hell. All right, let's finish up with a quick deli review, and we'll catch you tomorrow, you dickheads, for Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Hashtag spoiler alert. This is NBA Straya saying, look after yourselves, would ya? And later, who's that now? Oi, how the fuck are you? Your old mate Deli over here to swing a by from a pop culture review and shit, eh? But I gotta tell you, it's been a pretty crazy week and stuff, you know, like working out, working hard for the Boomers camp and all that sort of shit, trying to make my way to Paris and all that sort of gear. You know, also like watching the NBA Finals and sort of checking out to see what's going on and being like, oh yeah, fucking get him, Donnie and Greenie. My best mates from like the Boomers camps and shit, they're fucking smashing. I'm just like, yeah, man, just like how I fucking smashed the Warriors back in 16, bro. Like, it'll be fucking fine. Just knock in your threes, play defense, and you'll be fucking right, mate. So it's really fucking nice to see him go real well, you know, so it's pretty cool. Outside of that, you know, look, my boys had a big win on the weekend against like the Roos and shit. That was pretty fun as, but mostly, like, in between all the downtime and shit that we've gotten in this off-season, whatever, like, the missus like, oh, there's, like, a new Star Wars telly show, and I'm like, fucking another one? Oh, here we go. Jeez, what's this one about? She's like, I don't know, it's like some Jedis and shit, and I'm like, all right, fucking chuck her on. And we watched the first couple of episodes, no spoils or nothing of the Acolyte, but it was like, yeah, fucking, sure. It's a bit weird, don't know what's going on, really. It's like, oh, so there's some Jedis, and, like, it's way before, like, even all the old other Star Warses and shit. And you're like, all right, so what are we doing here? Who are we fighting? Is it some bad guy? It's like, nah, there's just some weird Jedis getting in trouble and shit, and they're trying to figure it out. And you're like, all right, no problems then. I better stick with it, eh? The weirdest part was where, like, one of the chicks in it says paycheck. And I'm like, what the fuck is a paycheck in the Star Wars universe? That's fucking dumb as, mate. Don't they use credits and shit? That's the most American fucking bullshit I've ever heard, mate. It's like fucking paycheck. No prick in Australia calls it a fucking paycheck. Or the UK. It's fucking the most US bullshit. Anyway. Fucking whatever. So, like, the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte, we'll give that, I don't know, 16 out of 10 deli ones. It was still pretty fun. And anytime you just whip out a lightsaber and it's like Detective Jedis and shit, I'm like, I'm fucking on board. Not bad. So I can't wait to watch episode 3 and 4 and shit. And we'll see how we go from there. Alright, there you go. It's pretty good. Go watch it on your Disneys or whatever. Alright, there you go. Until next time, I'll catch yous. Hopefully the boys, the Aussie boys, have a bit of a crack at these NBA finals. And I'll talk to you next time. Alright, later fuckos. Dilly out.